Thank you once again for joining us. So, as you all know, this is the orientation for regional training on psychosocial support in emergencies. But the idea of this webinar is not just an orientation on how to conduct the regional trainings, but since all of you are already trained at the national level on basics of psychosocial support in emergencies, any training that you want to take the learnings from the national TOT forward in your networks, in your organizations. So this is a basic structure that we have put together for you to follow that you can adapt as per your needs and context. Just to
Okay, Miss.
give a brief background, so the national TOT on psychosocial support in emergencies, we had over 35 participants from various educational backgrounds with different across like diverse age groups, gender, and also experience. We had we had freshers as well as very experienced participants, and they came from different regions of India and different states of India, and those states that were not covered in the national TOT, we are making additional efforts to also address these gaps in the regional trainings. So some of the expectations from the national TOT included having a cadre of nationally trained professionals on psychosocial support in emergencies who could do subsequent trainings at the regional level, state level, and also within their networks, and also to lead these trainings and build a roster of locally trained volunteers who can be later mobilized to provide psychosocial support and first aid during emergencies. And also to have a cascading effect of these trainings, as I mentioned, at very local levels. So, as the next phase from the national TOT, we have planned 5 regional trainings in the West region, South, Northeast, East, and North regions. We'll be concluding in North once again to make it full circle. So, we recently concluded the West regional training in Mumbai back in February. So, we have had a pilot regional training and we have some experiences to share from how it went and what could go better. It's a format that we can follow, and each regional training will differ based on the participant profile and also the resource persons. So this is the timeline we have in place for the regional training. So as you all know, for South region, it's between 22nd to 25th May. We had to prepone it by a day due to the national election dates in Karnataka and Kerala. And following that, we'll open applications for Northeast. So early May, early to mid-May, we'll be conducting regional training in the Northeast region. And then end of May, we'll be conducting the training in East region. And we'll close with North region at the end of June after all the elections have been completed. And to take you through the session plan, so we have planned a 3-day regional training. So how to plan a sessions, like first we'll have to identify what are the topics that we plan to cover, and using the learner's manual that we have put together. I'll give more information on that in the subsequent slides. So using the learner's manual, you can put together a session plan that aligns with the content of the learner's manual and also additional content and your experience that you would like to add to the session plan using methodology. So you can include interactive activities, presentations with graphs, data, images, field realities, and also engage the participants through this. So we found that in the regional trainings and also in the national TOT, supplementing your experience and like the topic with like more information from the field level on disaster settings and what are the ground realities always helps engage the participants to share more on their own experiences and also relate to the topic that is being discussed. So to break the monotony from a traditional lecture format, and also to provide them with additional resources similar to how we have done in the national TOT. We will give them a repository of all the materials we have used in the regional training, but also additional reference documents that they can use for their self-learning. Just the overview of the session plan. So on day one, we start off with registration and welcome. There's an inaugural panel consisting of members from the organizing team, ice-breaking activities, and after this, we go on to basics of disaster management and impacts of disaster. That's how we begin the 3-day training. And then following that, we cover vulnerability mapping and needs of the survivors and role of community in psychosocial care. So these are the introductory sessions to the training. And following that, psychosocial care for women and children. So these are some of our thematic sessions that move around. So that includes one, psychosocial care for women and children, and also psychosocial care for people with disabilities and elderly. So these two sessions move around a bit on day one and day three, depending on the availability of resource persons and how we can cover different topics more efficiently. Other than that, we also include a group discussion or experience sharing, just a buffer time in case some of the activities run over time or we need additional time to cover, or just to sum up the experience of the participants from day one and to get an idea of what their expectations are and also what they bring to the table to design the subsequent sessions. On day two, we usually cover the technical sessions. So we have resource persons from NIMHANS who cover all the technical topics. They are all clubbed together on day two. So this includes stages of reaction, basic techniques of psychosocial care, follow-up and referral mechanisms, ethics and action plan for psychosocial support, and also other technical topics that they feel are necessary to be covered with the participant group. Apart from the technical sessions, once the technical sessions on how to give psychosocial first aid or psychosocial care in disaster settings is covered, following in the second half, we do a cross-learning exercise using group activities of role play in like disaster relief camp settings to understand how it would be trying to provide psychosocial first aid in a relief camp setting in different either immediately in the aftermath of a disaster and also after a brief time period when some time has passed and people have settled down and made their own peace with this situation. So that's something that we tried in the Mumbai training. And again, this is something that we let the participant group and like the like the resource persons and the organizing team to move around a bit. On day three, uh, we have the psychosocial care for people with disabilities and elderly. And then we close the sessions, the official sessions, with self-care and caring of caregivers. And after that, we have assigned time for parking lot where we cover any of the topics that the participants felt did not have sufficient time that needs to be addressed in detail, and also feedback and training in terms of the of each day feedback, but the that particular day's feedback, but also the overall training and the logistics and all of those aspects. And cross-learning exercise to sum up the experience of the participants and compare that with day one expectations to what they have gained and how they plan to take these learnings forward. So this is just a brief on how the session plan is structured. And you can adapt this for any training that you take. We will make this available. So for resource persons, we usually have one more column on methodology. So for each of these topics, you can decide how you want to deliver the sessions. Though we do have some sample activities that we have tried and works, and also like other manual and activity manual that we put together during the national DOT that you can refer to for similar activities that you would like to try. So we had a session on adult learning also during the national DOT. So just to give a recap on that, as a facilitator, your role is to connect the audience with their learning objectives in the training environment. So you can do that through various learning methods and mediums. So most of our participants have an expectation to learn through practical and real life examples on disaster settings. So there will be a lot of experience and expertise within any group that you can always draw upon. So use their experience to like supplement the information you provide and validate their experience by connecting their sharing with your content. So you can use diverse mediums to engage the participants and visual learning using PPTs, images, graphs, flip charts, or boards to write down your points, and auditory medium using videos, audios to emphasize your points and also to discuss with the participants, and activity based learning or experiential learning through using activities that can drive the importance of the topic in discussion or to convey the learning objectives. And then for those who would like to learn more or are self-oriented learners, you can provide manuals, handouts, additional learning materials, and references. So this is the learner's manual that we have put together that roughly follows the same session plan as I shared earlier. So the session plan is put together based on the content structure of the learner's manual. So going into the methodology of some activities for the topics that we shared. So we have a lecture format, as you can see here, activities, demonstrative activities, like in the national TOT, we used to show the importance of venting and circle of support. We also have role play and role play of relief camp and also group discussions that we have used. So, starting from the now, I'll just start with the topics and their learning objectives and like what were the methods used to cover these topics. So, for basics of disaster management, the idea is to understand like what are the impact of disasters on individuals and communities, and also to understand how psychosocial care in disaster settings work, and to see case studies and best practices in of psychosocial care in these settings. So for that, we start with a lecture format. This is usually led by resource persons from NIDM or Sphere India. So here we understand basic concepts of disaster management and how disasters can impact psychosocial health. And following that, we do a vulnerability for the topic on vulnerability mapping and needs of survivors. There's a group activity to understand and identify like how are survivors affected in disaster situations, and this will be used to develop effective communication and support skills in these environments, and also to understand what are normal and concerning reactions during disasters. So in this, you can see that there's a vulnerability mapping exercise that was undertaken. There were certain situation prompts that were given to the participants. And based on that, they were asked to identify what are the different kinds of needs that survivors might have in so and so disaster situation. So the groups put together their needs and their own assessment and shared it with the larger group. And then the resource person supplemented their sharing. For the next session on role of community in disaster management, this is to understand the role of a psychosocial care provider in disasters, and to understand the role of community in psychosocial care, and also to explore the importance of circle of support in caring for survivors. So for this, we conducted an activity on differential vulnerability. So this we had done for another session during the national TOT also, I think. So here we essentially give roles, we assign roles in chits to different participants where their specific identity is listed, and they are given certain situation prompts to which they have to react if they would be able to access certain amenities or what hinders them, and there's sharing with a larger group in this situation. So this activity helps us understand how community is also not a homogeneous element and that there are differential vulnerabilities within communities and how to address these needs and to be conscious of these vulnerabilities. And following that, we had a group discussion on what the participants' experience was in the role of community during disasters and how they saw community come together or what kind of challenges communities face in dealing with disaster situations. Next, we go to the day two sessions. So the stages of reaction, the technical session on exploring the different categories of reaction to disasters and classifying them as per cognitive, emotional, behavioral, relational, and physical reactions. So here we have the top different kinds of reactions and assigning them. So that's an activity that we did during the national TOT also. Participants are asked to categorize the reaction under any of these categories. And after that, we also had the circle of support activity where the tiger tries to attack the goat, and how the circle of support, the stronger the circle of support is, the better protected the goat is. So just emphasizing the importance of circle of support. And those were the activities that were followed for stages of reaction. We also had basic techniques of psychosocial support session. So this included exploring care techniques, PSS care techniques on ventilation, active listening, empathy, social support, externalization of interest, spirituality, relaxation, and recreation. So some of the demonstrative activities that were conducted for this session includes, here you can see a demonstration of empathy. So when participants asked like how do you demonstrate empathy, there was a session where there were three situation prompts where one person was given a situation prompt where he's venting to a colleague, and they showed sympathy. Second person started giving solutions, and the third person was empathetic to their situation and how what are the and participants were asked to reflect on what was different in each of these reactions. And then we also have the balloon bursting activity that we did for the national duty, where participants are taught the importance of how important it is, importance of venting in disaster settings or any situation to regulate their own emotions. And next topic on ethics and action plan for psychosocial support. This session in the Mumbai regional training was taken by the TOT participant, Dr. Anil. So here participants were asked to reflect on certain ethical dilemma prompts that was provided on what are the ethical considerations for psychosocial care in such situations. And participants reflected through their own experiences and what they felt was right or wrong. And the resource person supplemented this with what is ethically correct and what are the usual good practices that are followed and suggested. And following this, there was also action plan for support and resilience on how to ensure that there is continued care and how to have a plan in place for psychosocial care. Then cross-learning exercises that we conducted. So this included sharing experience of working in disasters and exploring opportunities for cross-learning from other participants. So we had some participants with experience in psychology, but most of the participants were more familiar with humanitarian settings. So they supplemented with their experience of working in disasters. So this was done through role plays, group discussions, open sharing, and yeah, just wherever they felt like they reacted differently to a situation than what was shared and how they should have gone about. So, now coming to the thematic sessions, psychosocial care for women and children. So, to explore the impact of disasters on the physical, emotional, and social well-being of women and children, and to develop a safe and supportive environment. So, for this, we had some activities that we have had in the past. Includes the difference between equality and equity, to understand gender stereotypes, to share ask for sharing from the participants on common gender stereotypes that they have come across and how it has impacted them and whether it's right or what should be followed, and also relief camp activity to show assigned gender roles in normal situations and how these change or these differ in disaster settings. So, for the worse, more often than not, and experience sharing from disaster relief professionals on how they have witnessed certain situations, and also going into the session on children, what are the differential needs for children in disaster settings and how to provide psychosocial first aid to children. The next thematic session on psychosocial support for people with disabilities and elderly. So in the regional training, the resource person tried the activity to identify what are the physical, social, emotional, and evacuation issues for people with disabilities and elderly. So, following the group presentations, this was supplemented with more information on how they are more vulnerable during disaster settings and what should be done to provide additional care and to ensure that they have a safe and supportive environment. The final session on self-care and caring of caregivers. So this is to implement effective strategies to manage stress and preventing burnout among caregivers, and also promote self-care practices among volunteers and psychosocial caregivers. So in the regional Mumbai regional training, we had the participants perform the chicken dance, and also in the national TOT, also we had practice mindfulness exercises. So these are some options that you can, and there's a self-care checklist or plan that you can make uh, for yourself. These are some prompts that we have, and if there are others, we can use those as well. And in terms of coming finally to the resources, so what kind of resources do we have? We have the training reports from both the national TOT and also the regional TOT that happened in Mumbai that you can refer to, that has detailed information on how each of the topics were covered, what were the learning objectives and outcomes, and what were the activities that were undertaken. So apart from that, we have the national TOT training manual on psychosocial support in emergencies that was shared earlier, and also an additional activity manual that focuses only on activities for certain topics. So this was also part of the folder that was shared earlier. Apart from that, the new resource that we have developed is the learner's manual that we'll share with you prior to the regional training and after this call as well. So you can refer to that to put together the session plan for the regional training, and to ensure that there's complementarity for easy recollection of the participants. Apart from that, we also have a repository similar to how we shared during the national TOT. After the regional trainings also, we share additional reference materials, handouts, soft copies of handouts, the learner's manual, and also all the session PPTs that were used during the trainings. And we also have the thematic webinars that we had conducted earlier, including psychosocial support and care for women, children, people with disabilities, uh, and also elderly. and what are the basic techniques that we have on YouTube now. So the link for that is also with the participants, I believe, but I'll also share it on the chat and in a mail following this session. And yes, that's mostly what we wanted to cover for this session. If there are any questions, we are happy to address this. And we'll, of course, have more dedicated sessions or calls in planning for the regional trainings. But this is mostly an overview of how you can conduct these sessions and take the learnings forward in any environment. Um, yeah, Nupur, would you like to add something?
Yeah, just a couple of points that I wanted to share with the stakeholders here. One is the national duty. We did discuss that it's not something that we are doing as a one-time thing, while the regional trainings was something that was already on plan. But our intent was to create a resource of experts or trainers who can take up these trainings subsequently with or without us as collaborators. So the intent behind organizing this session was also to share all of the resources that were developed during these processes last few months with everyone, so that while we do have some regional trainings in calendar, we cannot cover like all geographies, all states, or even are not able to invite all of the TOT participants because there are certain resource limitations. However, we do have all of the resources in place that will be shared with every TOT national TOT participant, and so that you are able to take up these trainings independently. Also, if that's the case, if you are able to do these in your states, in your districts, within your organization, we are happy to help you with these resources, any technical support you may require. So it's not just limited to these initiatives that we have taken up. But these trainings, these learnings are able to kind of penetrate deeply within the grassroots level organizations and stakeholders. So that's how we had planned for this, and that's why we wanted to share these resources with all of you, so that you can utilize them in your work, in your organizations and your respective geographies. Yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Any questions from Subhalakshmi, Stelvi, Chandrasekhar, Ida?
No question because it was very clear. It was clear as a crystal. So no questions right now.
Thanks. I'll also share the PPT with you and also the learning manual and other resources we used during the regional TOT in Mumbai.
Yeah, sure, Michelle.
And also, do we need to share the PPTs or presentations that we make? Or if we need to do that, when is the last day to submit that?
Ideally before the regional training, to ensure that if there's any technical difficulty, you can, like, we have a backup. So if you can mail it before the regional training, that should work. But yeah, PPTs are not compulsory for any of the trainings. But if something that worked last time was that while NIMHANS people conducted like very experiential based activities, the TOT participants, when they supplemented the information with like data on why people with disabilities or elderly are more vulnerable, what are some case studies that have happened, some disaster situations, prompts. So these kind of things have worked. So some information, data, background information to connect and also engage participants. Just, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And also, when are we supposed to reach? Like one day before? Are we supposed to reach on 21st?
I think the travel logistics and all will convey after the call, like separately. That will happen through the operations team. So we'll keep that separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't think if there's anything else, we can of course discuss this later also, and you can always give me or any of us a call, and we'll be happy to respond to any queries you have. Any additional resources that you need from us, please reach out to us, and we'll provide all the documents. And yeah, that's it from our end. Hope this was helpful in whatever plans you have for the regional teams. So we'll close the session now.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, yes. I joined lately 10 minutes after.
No worries.
I don't know what the initial discussion was went on,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I will let you. I will get the information from the other parts.
Yeah, sure. Just that this was a orientation session on how you can conduct regional trainings or any trainings within your networks or organizations. So what are the broad topics that we can cover to give anyone an introduction to psychosocial support in emergencies, and what activities you can use, what is the content that we have that you can adapt to your own needs. So basically a discussion on that. The recording itself I'll share with all the participants. So you will also be able to look at it later if you need. Yes, so I think we can close now. Thanks a lot once again for making time and joining this session. We'll see you subsequently.
Thank you
Okay.
all.
Good afternoon. Have a nice day.